we wanted to discuss the insights of the Brisker Rav into Heseiba, Daled Kosos, Achilas Matzah. And if you recall yesterday, when we spoke about the Hare Kedem, there was a note in brackets, which I assume comes from Rav Shurkin Shlita, to take a look in the Brisker Rav. And that's what I did. And I think that this Brisker Rav will enhance our understanding of a lot of the things that we've been discussing until now. So he starts with the Rambam, Perek Zayin Halacha Zayin, which we've seen in the past. Leficha kishes soed adam, and yesterday the Hare Kedem made a big deal about kishes soed adam, that the mitzvah Heseiba applies within the framework of a Suda, and he went as far as quoting the Maral Mi Prague, who said that, according to the Rambam, if you fall asleep in the middle of your Suda on Leil Pesach, you should not continue eating, because we need a Su'uda that combines and connects the first two kosos with the second two kosos. You remember that? And tzarech lechol v'lishtos v'u mesiv derech cherus. So when he's eating the Suda, he should be eating it beheseiba. Now, if I were to stop here and take a pause without reading the next halacha in the Rambam, I would get the impression that during the entire Seudah, from beginning to end, from the moment that he washes on the matzah's mitzvah until the moment that he benches, all of his eatings, all of his achilos and shesios should be beseva. So even when he is eating his roast chicken, he should do it in a leaning position. Even when he's eating his baked potatoes, he should be doing it in an inclining position. However, the Rambam now qualifies himself. The Amos Aitzrichem Heseiba, do you really requires an absolute requirement to be masive during the entire Suda? And the Rambam differentiates. He says the following: Amos Aitzrichem Heseiba, when is it an absolute requirement? That's b'shas achilas kizayis matzah ushtias arba kosos, ha'elu, these four kosos. But shar achilas ushtiaso im hesiv harezim mishubach. It's not critical. We're not going to penalize you if you fail to do a Heseiba during the rest of your meal when you're eating your potatoes and your chicken. But if you do so, and you eat the entire meal b'Heseiba, assuming you're comfortable doing so, so you want to make sure you have a pillow and you have an armchair that you can lean on and so forth and so on, then that's derech cherus, and you've enhanced your mitzvah, your kiyum of Heseiba. So one thing is clear from the Rambam, that the Seudah in its entirety lends itself to Heseiba, derech cherus. Are you required to eat the entire Suda b'Heseiba? And the answer is no, but there is an absolute requirement of Heseiba during Achilas Matzah and during Shtiyas Daled Kosos. As far as the rest of the meal is concerned, you'd be praiseworthy, and we highly recommend that you be pious and go beyond the strict, critical, bare minimum requirement of matzah b'Heseiba and daled kosos b'Heseiba, and do Heseiba during the course of the meal. Now, just to review one point from yesterday's discussion about the difference between matzah shmura and matzah pshuta, and we pointed out in the name of Soloveitchik that with regard to Heseiba, the Rambam would not differentiate between matzah's mitzvah, that's called matzah shmura, and matzah pshuta. This, despite the fact that matzah shmura is the matzah that's required for the mitzvah of ba'erev tochlu matzahs, but here, as far as Heseiba is concerned, we don't need dafka, the matzah of matzah's mitzvah. We need to be kovei seudah. And to the same extent that you koveh suda on a matzah shmura, you can be koveh suda on a matzah pshuta. When you eat the matzah pshuta, you set up a suda. You certainly have not fulfilled your mitzvah be'erev tochlu matzahs, because the Torah requires matzah shmura for that. But as far as Seudah is concerned, you set up the Seudah. And if the chiyuv of Heseiba is generated by the Seudah, then for my part, take a matzah pshuta and do Heseiba with a matzah pshuta. And in fact, if we go one step further, if let's say he ate the matzah's mitzvah, the matzah shmur without Heseiba, bangs his head and he says, oh no, and now he's going to want to be Makayim the Heseiba by eating another matzah, I can save him a couple of bucks. Matzah shmura is expensive. And instead of eating a matzah shmura for the purpose of Heseiba, he might as well take a matzah pshuta, because that's just as good as a matzah shmura, as far as the mitzvah of Heseiba is concerned. Now, you'll see the abbreviations Ad, Kan, Lashono. And from here on, the Brisker Rav is going to analyze the Rambam. Now, the Brisker Rav is raising the following Chakira. By the way, Dawn, you came in a little bit late. I just want to know, did you get this in your phone? Steve sent it out, an hour ago or something like that, a half hour ago?
Yeah, just before the share.
You didn't receive it? Take a look in your...
The phone or email?
It would be in the phone, am I correct?
Or is your email?
Oh, email. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's in an email. My mistake.
Yeah, very difficult to read, but yes.
Because I'm not a good photographer, so there's a shadow on it.
No, I can blow it up, sir. It's right. It's 17 pages, something like that.
It should say page 14 if the number came out. So sometimes the number doesn't come out.
Yeah, I have it.
On the top right, it should say page 14.
I have it.
Okay, so far, all we've done is literally quote the Rambam verbatim. From here on, which is approximately 5 lines down in the paragraph that starts Pei Zayin, Perek Zayin, that's the Brisker Rav and his analysis of the Rambam. So what I'd like to do before we read the Brisker Rav inside is to give a little bit of an introduction. In the yeshivas, there's a famous chakira. Chakira always means the two sides to the coin, regarding the definition of Heseiba and its relationship to matzah. We know that the Rabbanon, the Chachamim, established we're having a little bit of a technical problem. Hopefully we'll be able to give the shir. I can't promise. So here's the Chakira. 2 definitions of Heseiba. One definition of Heseiba is that when the Chachamim required Heseiba, they added it on a Drabanan level as a condition in the mitzvah of Matzah and Daled Kosos, which would mean that you do not fulfill your mitzvah of Matzah, Midirabanan, unless you eat the Matzah B'Heseiba. So once again, the first side, Roman numeral number 1 in this Chakira, is that when the Rabbanan were Mesakein, they established Heseiba as a requirement, they placed it into the mitzvah of Matzah, into the mitzvah of Daled Kosos. The other way, which we'll call Roman numeral number 2, the other possibility in this Chakira, is that no, Heseiba is a separate independent mitzvah. There's a mitzvah of Matzah, and there's a mitzvah of Heseiba. Just that at what point do you do Heseiba? I mean, Heseiba has to be connected to an achila. When you eat the kazayas, when you have the Daled Kosos, those are the mainstays of your meal. as far as the halacha is concerned. I mean, you might be excited about the kneluch and the soup, but we're excited about the matzah and the dalit kosos. So that's when you're going to do Heseiba. But that Heseiba is a mitzvah unto itself. It's a mitzvah of derech cherus. This is how I demonstrate cherus. Says the Brisker Rav, take a look inside. Midivrei Rambam elu mevuar, I can derive from the Rambam the mitzvah Heseiba hi mitzvah bifnei atzma. What does bifnei atzma mean? It's a separate, independent mitzvah. Sheyochal v'yishte b'layla zevu mesiv derech cherus. Now let's take a pause. How does the Brisker Rav know to tip the scale in that chakira, famous chakira, in favor of defining Heseiba as a separate, independent mitzvah? Can I evoke any response here? In other words, this is not a rhetorical question. Where did the Brisker Rav come off? How did he see in the Rambam that Heseiba is separate and independent of Matzah? Reuven, are you able to answer that question?
Well, is he saying it's specifically a separate mitzvah, or perhaps a component of derech cherut?
Yeah, okay, good. He's identifying the mitzvah of derech cherut with Heseiba, but it's separate from and independent of the mitzvah of matzah. How does he see that in the Rambam? That's my question to you.
Oh, where does he see the Rambam?
I'll give you a hint. The clue is the word meshubach. When does the Rambam, in what context, apply harei meshubach? You know, we're going to dance and we're going to have a whole band and a parade, you know, because we're going to carry this guy on his shoulders. What did he do that made him deserve this accolade, harei meshubach? Should we go back and read the Rambam again? Okay, so let's go back to the Rambam. Leficha, kishesoed adam v'layla zeh, tzarich lecho v'lishtos v'umesiv derech cherus. V'yemasai tzrichem Heseiba, b'shas achilas kizayis matzu, shtiyas arba kosas ha'elu, v'shar achiloso shtiyoso, im hesiv harei zeh meshubach. What do we see from this Rambam? Asks the Brisker Rav. To whom are we giving this harei zeh meshubach? I called it a parade. You know, we're gonna give this guy, you know, a special aliyah of shlishi or shishi because he did what? Steve, are you with me? What did this guy do to deserve harei zeh meshubach? Just to drop louder, if you don't mind. Got to talk fast because you never know when the internet is going to go down on us. You know, it's like an albatross around my neck here.
So he's saying, while during shtiyas, the arbakosa, drinking the arbakosas, and eating, if you do Heseiba, that's meshubach.
Eating what? Matzah?
Well,
if he's eating the matzah with Heseiba, that's meshubach. Then he's fulfilling his obligation. I'm not going to.
No, then he would have said specifically matzah.
He says shar achiloso. What does shar achiloso mean?
That would mean.
So that's during the Suda.
That means he's eating his chicken and his potatoes, Heseiba. And we're going to give him a parade. And if we're going to parade him, apparently, what conclusion should you derive? It's meaningful. If it's not meaningful, why are we giving him this accolade, harei zeh meshubach? Why are we giving him shishi when he comes to davening the next morning? Apparently, to do Heseiba during the entire meal when he eats his chicken and his potatoes and his knedlich, if you're not makbid on gebrachs, he ate his knedlich and he was leaning, and he did a Heseiba, he gets brownie points for that. He gets extra credit. Apparently, he's makayim the mitzvah Heseiba, even b'shar sudaso, and if I raise him meshubah. Now, if we're going to take the position that Chazal created a requirement of Heseiba as part of the mitzvah of matzah, it's an integral part of matzah or of shtiyas daled kosos, then what significance, what meaning would you attribute to someone who ate his knedlich b'Heseiba? The fact that the Rambam says Harei Meshubach, or the fact that Rambam says Kishesoed Odav Alayla Zeh Tzarach Lechol V'Lishtos V'Mesiv, as we discussed yesterday at great length, that Heseiba is part of the Suda, and Heseiba will upgrade and transform his Suda into a Suda of Cherus, then it must be a separate independent mitzvah. If it's not independent of matzah, but rather it was established as part of matzah, then why would you praise the piety of someone who ate his chicken b'Heseiba on the night of Pesach? Let's see it inside. Midivrei Rambam ha'elu mevuar. It's clear from the Rambam the mitzvah Heseiba is mitzvah bifnei atzma. It's independent of matzah. Sheyochal v'yishta b'layla zevu meisiv derech cherus. Ela dechacham kavu lemitzvah zu. When is it an absolute requirement? That's b'shas achilus matzah shtiyas arba kosav al kol panim mitzvah v'nei atzmahi. V'lo mididei ha-mitzvah shel matzah v'arbakosos. It's not a din in the mitzvah of matzah and arbakosos. U'kedechayzinon, and I'll prove it from the fact that gam b'shar achilosu shtiyoso, even when he's eating his knedlich, im hesiv hareza meshubach, through a Heseiba, he gets praise for that. Tahainu the mikri kiyum mitzvah shel Heseiba. He has involved himself in achieving a kiyum mitzvah Heseiba. A kiyum mitzvah Heseiba when he's eating the knedlich? I thought Heseiba was established as part and parcel of the mitzvah of matzah. Apparently, the Rambam holds that Heseiba is not an integral part of the mitzvah of matzah, but a separate, independent kiyum of Heseiba. And as Ruvain said very well, derech cherus. His Heseiba demonstrates cherus. And we said yesterday that it wouldn't make any difference whether he did that Heseiba with a matzah's mitzvah or even a matzah shel rishus, meaning a matzah pshut, as we called it, because it's no difference than Heseiba when he eats his chicken or his knedlich. Hooray, the Maisa Heseiba he mitzvah b'fnei atzma v'shaycha, and it's appropriate gam b'shas b'shar achiloso shtiyoso. Now I'm wondering, in the light of this Brisker Rav, what would be the din if he ate the matzah, the kazayis matzah, without a Heseiba? Does he have to repeat the performance? Could be that he could do a Heseiba at some other point in his su'udah, and that would be sufficient. Although l'chatchila, ideally, he should have done his Heseiba b'shas achilas matzah, but if Heseiba is a separate mitzvah, then if he implemented his mitzvah of achilas matzah without Heseiba, he fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah, because we're learning now in the Rambam that Heseiba is an independent mitzvah and is not part of matzah, so he fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah. Elawad, he didn't fulfill his mitzvah Heseiba, so he'll fulfill his mitzvah Heseiba in some other way. He doesn't necessarily have to eat another kazayis matzah. He fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah. But if I would hold that Heseiba was established as part and parcel of the mitzvah of matzah, that means that it's critical. If he ate the matzah without a Heseiba, he'll have to eat the matzah again because he didn't fulfill his mitzvah of matzah. Now, again, I want to point out that when we say that he didn't fulfill his mitzvah of matzah, that's all on the Drabanan level. The Torah says, B'erev Toklu Matzahs, it doesn't have the word Heseiba there. The Torah doesn't stipulate that when you eat your kazayis matzah, you must do it b'Heseiba. That's a rabbinic requirement. So what we'll have now is a split. If he eats the matzah without Heseiba, according to those, which we'll soon see is the Tosfos and the Rosh, it's not the Rambam, but according to those who say that Heseiba was instituted as an integral part of the mitzvah of matzah, he ate the matzah without Heseiba, then on a Drabanan level, he's going to have to eat the matzah. B'Heseiba, get it right on the second time. But on the Deraisa level, where the Torah says B'erev Toklu Matzah, the Torah doesn't stipulate that he's got to eat it b'Heseiba, he has fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah 100%. But Midrabanan, he has not fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah. Hence, he has to eat another matzah. Can you just indicate whether you're following me or not? Because this would be a good time to ask me questions and make sure we have two approaches to understand the mitzvah of Heseiba. One approach is that Heseiba was integrated as part of the mitzvah of matzah and dalet kosos, and the other approach is no, Heseiba remains an independent of matzah, independent of dalet kosos, and Heseiba could apply to any part of the meal, the entire meal. However, the chiyuv was only established to do Heseiba during the mainstay of the meal, which in this case is matzah and dalet kosos.
I'm just wondering out loud that it could be by the Rambam saying that Heseiba is praiseworthy. He's putting it on par with embellishing and speaking of Sipur Haggadah. Specifically in Haggadah, it says, if we talk more about it throughout the Yetziat Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, that's praiseworthy. So he
right.
uses
In other words, if
here
Heseiba, like Haggadah, is part of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, then Hareza Meshubach means it's praiseworthy to expand beyond the barest minimum. So in the case of Haggadah, continue learning, teaching, studying about Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that's praiseworthy. Go beyond beyond the bounds of the official canon of the Haggadah, and Hareza Meshubach, like the Chacham who were up the whole night studying Yetzias Mitzrayim and Hilchos Pesach and so forth and so on. And so too...
So is that a mitzvah in and of itself?
That's called Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. That is a mitzvah called Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's counted in the Taryag. And now you can expand the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim by adding to the Haggadah and going beyond the Haggadah. So too, Heseiba in the Rambam's frame of reference is part of the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. And therefore, the more Heseiba that you can chaperein, the better it is. It's praiseworthy because you're expanding the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim by doing Heseiba during the meal. If you wanted to do the barest minimum of Heseiba of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, then kazayis matzah, 4 kosos of yayin, that's all the Heseiba you need. But now we're saying in the Rambam that if he does Heseiba even beyond the minimum requirement of kizayis matzah and dalet kosos, hareza meshubach, he's praiseworthy because he's expanding the kiyum of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim to his entire meal. But then he writes, Ulefi zem ochal matzah shosar b'kosos below Heseiba, ein kan shum greusa b'mitzvah shel achilas matzah or arba kosos. So if he failed to do Heseiba during the achila of matzah, the drinking of dalet kosos, then although his mitzvah, according to the Rambam, of achilas matzah is perfect, Raktolokia mitzvah Heseiba, she mitzvah nifredes legamre. He failed to fulfill the mitzvah Heseiba as a separate mitzvah, but as far as the mitzvah of matzah is concerned, he definitely fulfilled that mitzvah. Vehine, Tosfos b'Pesachim daf kuf ches, nistapku. Tosfos wavers back and forth. Im shochach v'lo hesev im yachsav v'yishta. He drank the daled kosses without a seiba. Does he have to drink it again? Uberosh sham mevur diim achal kazayis matzah below a seiba lo yotza. So he's going to have to eat another kazayis matzah according to the Rosh, because the first kazayis matzah that he ate was without a seiba. Ulachora mevur mizah hepa. We see from Tosfos and the Rosh the exact opposite of what we saw from the Rambam. The Sfilahu, the din Heseiba din the Kiyum mitzvah shel matzah v'daled kosos. So Tosfos and the Rosh, by requiring a repeat performance of Achilas Matzah in an event that he ate the matzah without a seiba, are establishing l'shitasam that Heseiba was established as part and parcel of the mitzvah of matzah. And on a Rabbanan level, you have not fulfilled your mitzvah of matzah if you didn't eat it Heseiba. Di lav hachi amai lo yatsa. If you won't grant me that premise that Heseiba is a part and parcel of the mitzvah of matzah, then how could it be that he hasn't fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah when he omits Heseiba? It must be that Heseiba was established as an integral part of the mitzvah of matzah. Now, I'm just going to highlight the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. We won't go through it inside. And he says the following, that according to the Rambam, if he ate without Heseiba, he has fulfilled the mitzvah of matzah bishleimus. Nothing is lacking in his mitzvah of matzah, despite the fact that he ate the matzah without Heseiba. And if subsequent to the achilas matzah, the kezayis rishona, he eats other matzah, then that matzah has the status of shar achila ushasiya. Now, he fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah with the first kezayis. Now, the second kezayis, which, by the way, in brackets we said might even be a matzah pshuta, that second kezayis is not being eaten for the purpose of mitzvahs matzah, because he already fulfilled the mitzvah of matzah even without Heseiba. Ubal koch the svile de beikar din achilas matzah nemerak tzorach achilu Heseiba, etc., etc. Okay, fine. So let me ask you a question. This is a quiz question. Like, turn on your mics to test you as to whether you understand what we've said. The man ate matzah without Heseiba. Now he's eating matzah with Heseiba. Does he make a bracha on the second matzah, even though he already made a bracha on the first matzah? Or he does not make a bracha? Anybody?
I'll go out on a limb to be wrong. He would not make a second bracha.
That's a half-baked answer. That's 50% of the answer. You're missing another 50%.
Also.
He wouldn't make a second bracha because Heseiba is independent. So he's making the bracha on the matzah.
So finish it up now. Or what's the other possibility? That Heseiba is part of what? Of the mitzvah of matzah. He has not fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah, at least on a D'Rabbanan level, if he ate it without a Heseiba. Hence, if he didn't fulfill his mitzvah of matzah, he's now obligated to eat the matzah, and he'll make a bracha on the second matzah, and that's the Rosh Hashanah. So again,
Okay.
the answer that I was looking for is it depends.
It
Very
depends.
often, the answer to my question, it should always start with it depends. Does he make a bracha on the second matzah? Well, according to the Rambam, absolutely not. He has already fulfilled the mitzvah of matzah. Heseiba per se does not deserve a bracha. There's no such thing as Asher Kitchanim Mitzvos Mitzivot Leisei. But according to the Rosh, that the establishment of Heseiba was integrated into the very fabric of the mitzvah of matzah, such that now that he ate the matzah without Heseiba, he has not fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah. Well, buddy, when you're ready to eat the matzah b'Heseiba, let me know, and I'm going to require that you make a bracha on that achilus matzah. V'hinei. All right, so now you can shut off your. Well, I can do that for you, I think. Let's see if I can do this. This is my fancy technology here. All right. Now we're up to the paragraph on the bottom right, on the same page. V'hinei makar dino shel harosh dimachal kazayis matzah b'lasei b'lo yotza hu mihad diyomer Rav Yeshua ben Levi hashamash she'achal kazayis matzah kshu mesiv yotza. If the shamash, who's the waiter that's serving the meal at the Seder, sits down, reclines, and eats the matzah, he has fulfilled his mitzvah of matzah. Mashma, if we medayik in the lashon of the Gemara of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, mesiv in, lo mesiv lo. The Rosh derives from this. We've seen this in the past. We even looked in the Amudei Hod on this particular Rosh, that from the fact that the Shamish was Yotze because he did Heseiba, it means in the absence of Heseiba, you weren't Yotze Yechiyu. Ulechora yef shalom de Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi lo mayri klal mi did mitzvahs achilas matzah. El rak mi did mitzvahs Heseiba. Uka-omadim achal kizayis matzah mesiv kvar yotzi dechovas Heseiba af shelo ochal kol achilosa b'Heseiba. So basically, the Brisker Rav here is refuting the proof of the Rosh, and based on this proof, the Rosh concluded that if you ate the matzah without Heseiba, you have to repeat the eating of the matzah. It could be possible that what the Gemara is telling us here about the shamash is that if he even if he didn't eat the matzah let me say it again. If the shamash eats the matzah b'Heseiba, perfect. That's the ideal way of fulfilling the mitzvah Heseiba. If, on the other hand, he ate the rest of the meal, right? So again, if he ate the kazayis matzah b'Heseiba, then yotza. What's the flip side? The flip side is he doesn't have to eat the entire meal b'Heseiba. That's how the Rambam would interpret. And he says yotzi dechovas Heseiba af shelo ochal kol achilosa b'Heseiba.
It seems that the Brisker Rav, he's interjecting the hashamash to learn that the hashamash wants to perhaps to fulfill the bare minimum that's required of him of the Seder. So since the other participants are going to be eating more matzah, they might fulfill it at a later point with Heseiba, but he just has this one opportunity to eat the matzah, so he needs to do.
Excellent. So the Gemara is establishing that although he is not going to sit down at the meal and join them, he has to serve. But if he does the barest minimum of eating one kazayis in a sitting position and he reclines, then he has fulfilled his mitzvah. The Rosh says that the implication is that if he eats the matzah without a Heseiba, he's not Yotzei. According to the Rambam, that's not how we're going to read the Gemara. The Gemara is not telling us that if he didn't do a Heseiba, he's not Yotzei his mitzvah of matzah. The Gemara is only telling me that even though he will have no other opportunity to sit down at the table and fulfill that higher level kiyum of Heseiba during the entire meal, but he has fulfilled his minimum requirement. And that's all he has to do. He has eaten one kazayis b'Heseiba. For another Jew who's not a shamash, we're going to ask him and perhaps recommend to him that he should eat the entire meal b'Heseiba from the beginning to the end. Okay. Ulechora, again, I'm going to read it again. And he only has one opportunity to do Heseiba. They'll only give him a 2-minute break from his service to sit down and eat a kazayis matzah. Right? This is the source for the fact that although the mitzvah Heseiba ideally should apply throughout the entire Suda, but b'di'eved, we're not going to hold him responsible if he fulfilled the critical element of Heseiba, which is during Matzah. Rambam shekasa the sharchi losu shtiyosem heisav arezim meshubach v'mlaveinu mishu einot tzara. From whence did the Rambam derive the conclusion that in the balance of the meal, when he's eating his knedlach, if he didn't eat it b'Heseiba, he's okay? All right, he doesn't have a reizah meshubach. The Rambam derives it from the shamash, because the shamash is going to be yotzei his mitzvah of Heseiba when he does Heseiba on achilas kizayis. That's all he's going to. The only opportunity he has to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah and Heseiba is that 2.5 minute window of time that they give him to sit down and eat the matzah b'Heseiba. He will not have the opportunity to do Heseiba for the balance of his meal. He's probably going to have to chop a little knedlach here and there while he's standing in the kitchen or whatever it is. But Heseiba he won't have. But the answer is Heseiba is only critical and is only an absolute requirement with regard to matzah and daled kosem. Okay. Divrei Rabbi Shimon Levi. How does the Rambam know that as far as the rest of the meal, the balance of the meal, even if he leaves out Heseiba, he has fulfilled his mitzvah, not Harezim Meshuba, meaning Nokat Lishna di Yotza. It says in the language of Rabbi Shimon Levi that the Shamash ate one kazayis matzah b'Heseiba and he was Yotzei. Not that this is the ideal way. Shmamino deshaycha Heseiba gam b'shar achilos milvad kazayis matzah. Myri Klaubi did a mitzvah shalachilas matzah de ze yotza gabalo Heseiba k'mosho chachnu midivrei. The only thing that bothers me about this last paragraph here is why did the Gemara have to teach me dinim that are relevant to everyone and couch them in terms of the shamash? There are 2 dinim that the Rambam is going to derive from this story about the shamash. Number 1, that there's a chiyuv to do a Heseiba when you're eating a kazayis matzah. Number 2, that there's also a mitzvah but not an absolute requirement to be massive during the entire balance of the meal. Now, both those dinim apply equally to the shamash as they do to anyone else. I guess maybe because it's more practical to imagine someone who cannot perform Heseiba during the entire balance of the meal, and that's the shamash. And the chiddush is that, okay, he didn't have the ideal mitzvah of Heseiba, which would have encompassed the entire meal, but you know what? He ate a kezayis matzah b'Heseiba and yotzi yedei chovos. Okay, then Rabbosai, so this was the piece that I wanted to go through today. Okay, then, and Mitzvah Shevet 10:45, back at the ranch, we will talk about Masechet Pesachim. Have a great day.